Hello everybody, I'm Chris Callahan, also known as Mr. C, and today we are going to talk about discoveries. A discovered attack in chess is when one piece moves and it reveals an attack by another piece. Let me show you what I mean. This doesn't make much sense in words, but it's not so hard to understand when you see it on the board. So, do you notice that if I move this bishop, right, the rook will be attacking the king? And what that means is that I can put the bishop some places that I otherwise wouldn't be able to put it. The correct answer, or the correct move here, is bishop to a7 check. And when you play a move like this, the other person often gets very confused because you just played the bishop here and said check. And so they look at the bishop and they look at the king and they look at the bishop and they look at the king and they say, bishops don't move like that. How is that a check? Well, it's a checking move by the bishop, but the bishop isn't giving check. The rook is giving check. And of course, after the king saves itself, I am going to take that queen and win it. I want you to notice that if it wasn't for the check, I would not be able to put this bishop here, right? If I just put the bishop here and that's the only thing that was happening, the queen would take the bishop and all of my best laid plans wouldn't work out very well. This is the magic of discoveries. I can put this bishop anywhere I want. I can put it over here, I can put it over here, I can put it on the moon. And it doesn't matter because the rook is giving check and black has to deal with that instead of where I put my bishop. Discovered attacks will lead to some of the most beautiful tactics you'll ever see in a chess game. Here's a very well-known example from the French defense. If you're playing black in this position, you may notice that you have two pieces attacking this pawn on d4 and there's only one white piece defending it. But the problem is if you take this pawn, white will take back with the knight, black takes back with the queen, and right about here, black is feeling pretty good. He thinks I traded some knights and I took a pawn. I've won a pawn. I got a pawn in my pocket. But the problem is that white has a devastating discovered attack. White will play bishop to b5 check. And this check isn't such a big deal. There are ways to save the king. That's not the problem. The problem is that there is now a free queen on d4. Before, queen takes d4 wasn't possible because there was a bishop in the way. But I moved that bishop out of the way and gave check, so there wasn't time to save the queen. The most powerful form of a discovered attack is what's called the double check. And what a double check is exactly what it sounds like. It is giving check with two pieces. How do you give check with two pieces? You can't move two pieces at the same time, can you? Well, stay with me here. In this position, I'm going to give a check with the bishop. I have a discovered check set up where I'm going to move the rook so that the bishop behind it gives check to the black king. But I'm going to put the rook on a square where the rook also gives check. So the best move here is rook to e8 check. And very surprisingly, this is actually checkmate. And that's very strange to say because both of these checks can be stopped. For example, this bishop is giving check, but I can put the knight in the way and that would stop the bishop's check. This rook is giving check and I could take the rook with the queen and that would stop the rook's check. But there's no move that stops both checks. And this is the incredible power of the double check. One more example here. I couldn't do a video about discoveries without showing this one. This one is really gorgeous. I'll cut to the chase. The correct move for white here is the incredible queen to d8 check. That is a free queen. Crunch. But the reason it's worth it to give up the queen is because it sets up a double check. That's how strong the double checks are. It's worth a whole queen in this situation. The follow-up is bishop g5, double check, and don't think about trying to block either one of these checks because the only way you can save your king with a double check is to move the king, so king to e8, and the finish is rook to d8 checkmate. That is beautiful. Okay, let's practice a bit. You are playing white. You're looking for a powerful discovery. I'll let you think for a minute. Pause your videos if you like. Well, the correct answer here is rook to d8 check. Right? I hope that you noticed right away that there was a discovery being set up right here, and it's just a matter of putting the rook on the best square. So it seems pretty clear that giving check is the best move, and after the king saves itself, however it does, we get a free queen. Here's another one. Find the best move for white. Take a moment to think. Pause your videos if you like. Well, this is a very tricky one. So the discovered attack that we have locked and loaded is right here, but the question is, where do we put this bishop? Where can we put it so it does the most damage? If we put the bishop, say, here, well, that doesn't do much. There's a check and the king saves itself, and so what? The game goes on. Let's see if we can find something better. Many of you might have been tempted with bishop e7 check, which does make a lot of sense. It wins the queen. But I trickily made a position where there's something even better than winning the queen. The best move in this position is clearly bishop f6 check, right? Because it's not check, it's checkmate. That's better than winning the queen, I think you'll agree. The rook gives check, and the bishop covers the only squares that the king could have gone to. Checkmate. I think that's enough discovered checks for one day. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.